In 1928, a plow hit stone on the coast of Syria. Under the field lay a burned city, and in the ashes, a letter from its last king, written while enemy ships closed in on his harbor. It was never sent. The king's name was Amurapi. His city, Ugarit, was one of the richest ports in the world, and when the ships came, it stood empty. His troops were off fighting for an ally. His fleet was far away. The country, he wrote, is abandoned to itself. But to understand the fall, you first have to see how high this world stood. For 300 years, 5 great powers ruled the eastern Mediterranean: Egypt, the Hittites, the Greeks of Mycenae, Assyria, and Babylon. In their letters, their kings addressed one another as my brother, an exclusive club, and everyone knew who was in it. They swapped royal brides, gold, and grain, and their merchant ships stitched 3 continents together. Bronze is 9 parts copper and 1 part tin, and the tin came from mines as far away as modern Afghanistan. One merchant ship, wrecked off the Turkish coast and found by divers 3,000 years later, carried 10 tons of copper, a ton of tin, ebony from Africa, and amber from the Baltic. This was a globalized world. That was its strength, and its fatal weakness. The system's superweapon was the chariot, a sprung platform of wood and leather, 2 horses, a driver, and an archer with a composite bow. Chariots were the fighter aircraft of their age, ruinously expensive, devastating in massed formation, and every great power bankrupted itself to field more of them. The arms race peaked at Kadesh, on the Orontes River, where Ramesses II of Egypt met the Hittite king Muwatalli in the largest chariot battle ever fought. 2,500 Hittite chariots smashed into a strung-out Egyptian column, and only a desperate personal rally by the pharaoh saved his army from annihilation. 6,000 chariots clashed at Kadesh, and neither empire could destroy the other. So 16 years later they did something unprecedented. They signed the earliest surviving peace treaty between 2 great powers, and later sealed the peace with a royal marriage. The great powers had fought their way to a stable, prosperous peace. It had perhaps 50 years left. Then the rains failed. Tree rings and pollen cores show a mega-drought gripping the region for decades around 1200 BC. Harvests collapsed, and the Hittite Empire, a superpower, began writing desperate letters begging Egypt for grain ships. Hungry, uprooted people started to move, and every road they took led through somebody else's fields. Within a single generation, the entire system came down. The palaces of Mycenaean Greece burned, one by one. Hattusa, capital of the Hittite Empire, was abandoned and put to the torch. And moving down the coast, by ship, and by land with ox carts and families, came a confederation history would come to name the peoples of the sea. In their path stood Ugarit, where a king was writing his last letter. This is how Egypt's own records describe those years: a roll call of allies and rivals, all destroyed. 5 powers named in a single sentence, cut off at one time. Around the Mediterranean, only one great power still stood: Egypt. And the sea peoples were coming for it, by land and by sea at once. Who were they? The Egyptians listed their tribes: the Peleset, the Cheker, the Shikalesh, the Denyen, the Weshish, but their reliefs show something stranger than an army: warriors in feathered headdresses marching beside ox carts loaded with women and children. This was not a raid. It was a migration with swords, and it could not be bought off or waited out. Ramesses III, second pharaoh of Egypt's 20th dynasty, chose to meet them as far forward as possible. On the border of Canaan, at a place the Egyptians called Djahy, his infantry and chariots broke the Sea People's land column, the first check the migration had suffered in a generation. But the greater threat was already at sea. The Sea People's fleet made for the mouths of the Nile, the gates of the richest land on earth. Ramesses turned the river itself into a killing ground. He stockaded the shorelines with spears, packed every bank with archers, and hid his war fleet inside the river mouths. Then he let the enemy sail in. The trap closed. Arrows poured in from both banks, and the Egyptian fleet surged out to pin the invaders against the shore. Egyptian marines threw grappling hooks into the enemy rigging and hauled their ships over, spilling armored men into the river. It is the earliest naval battle in history whose fighting we can actually still see, and it was fought at the gates of the last great power on the sea. Ramesses carved the whole battle onto the walls of his mortuary temple at Medinet Habu, in western Thebes, capsized ships, drowning warriors in feathered crowns, Egyptian archers loosing in ordered ranks. It is the oldest picture of a naval battle in existence, and after 3,000 years you can still read the violence in it. Egypt's account of the aftermath does not flinch. The invasion fleet was annihilated in the river mouths. The survivors of the land column were resettled as subjects, among them the Peleset, who gave their name to the coast where they settled, Philistia, the land of the Philistines. Egypt had survived the apocalypse. Barely. Step back, and the scale of it is hard to grasp. Some 40 cities destroyed or abandoned. The Hittite Empire and Mycenaean Greece, erased outright. Assyria and Babylon survived, crippled and shrunken. Egypt held its ground, and even Egypt came out bleeding. In Greece, writing itself was forgotten for 4 centuries. Historians still argue over the cause: drought, earthquakes, migration, systems collapse, but the likeliest answer is the bleakest one: all of them at once, each feeding the others. Victory did not spare the victor. The wars drained Egypt's treasury. Within a century the empire had shrunk to the Nile itself. But in the wreckage of the Bronze World, new things took root: iron tools, a simple alphabet anyone could learn, and small new nations in the space the empires left behind. The world that fell made room for the world we know. Next time, the story of war leaves the Mediterranean for the first time. At dawn on a plain in ancient China, a rebel army meets the last king of the Shang dynasty, and claims the mandate of heaven itself. Subscribe, and march with us through history, one battle at a time.